Hello and welcome to the UCF podcast. My name is Francis. I'm here with my co-host Clark, and this is the We're Going Back edition. We're going back to Abu Dhabi, back to Yes Island, Fight Island. And what are we doing there? We're here for some awesome fights. Our main event is Cory Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. This is a fight that is very interesting for a lot of reasons, and actually it had me and Clark talking a lot before we started recording too. Um, right off the bat, right off the bat, I'm going to say I'm picking Cory Sandhagen. Sandhagen is coming off of 3 wins. He is, I mean, actually, his only losses in this UFC bantamweight division are to guys who would go on to like take the belt or already had the belt. I mean, he's just like been the best thing at bantamweight that doesn't have a belt for a long time. In his last fight against Rob Font, he showcased a lot of really impressive wrestling to neutralize the boxing of Rob Font. In this matchup against Umar, that might not be the biggest concern since Cory Sandhagen is like the striker in this matchup. Nurmagomedov is very obviously another one of these Dagestani wrestlers. That's how he gets things going. Also, at the very start of his last fight, he got clipped and hurt on the feet. I think Cory Sandhagen, if he hurts Umar, is not going to let him get away with it. And generally speaking, like ever since that loss to Aljamain Sterling, where he was just taken down and submitted immediately, Cory Sandhagen very clearly has taken the wrestling and the grappling more seriously. So I'm picking Cory Sandhagen.
Yeah, completely reasonable decision, honestly. I kind of am leaning towards Umar, and not by a huge amount, but by a little bit. I think Umar might pull it off. First off, I mean, it barely is even worth mentioning, but this is kind of like the obvious feed to the crowd in Abu Dhabi. This is going to be a Dagestani guy versus the number 2 ranked guy in the division. I think that the organizers of the UFC, the matchmakers, are probably hoping that Umar wins, or that's kind of like the idea, keeps everyone awake, exciting kind of finishing thing. But Umar is obviously looking pretty good just in general. Another one of these Dagestani guys, hasn't lost professionally yet, and hasn't lost in the UFC as a result. He's good wrestling. He's got some submissions. He, I think, has 1 TKO in the UFC, and he will go the distance all the way. This is a guy that I might be buying into the hype a little more than is warranted. I could very easily see Sandhagen taking it, but at the same time, I mean, we all just know how it goes, right? These Dagestani guys that know how to wrestle, they can be a serious threat to strikers. Sandhagen, he's probably got a good shot at defending it, but then the serious concern, if you defend a submission for 3 rounds, is that Umar then just kind of controls him the whole time and wins with a relatively lame, I sat on top of you and punched you 6 to 7 times type situation. So I got to go with Umar, but I wouldn't be shocked if Sandhagen takes it.
Yeah, that's a completely reasonable opinion. Checking the odds quickly, Vegas agrees with you. That ain't a bad thing. All right.
I don't know. Vegas isn't necessarily intelligent, but
no, but they do get it right most of the time. Just going to the grappling stats momentarily, for 15 minutes, Umar is averaging, 4.5 takedowns. He's getting more than half of those, and his takedown defense is quite literally perfect in the UFC thus far. Cory Sandhagen, having had to defend a whole bunch more takedowns than Umar, has 64% takedown defense. What I really am hoping for is that Cory Sandhagen has planned for what happens when his butt hits the mat. Now, I think he has.
I think he has too, honestly. But
right. So, and like you were saying, this is like pretty hard to pick. I mean, like the odds right now is having it like almost 2 to 1 for Umar. That seems wrong.
I'm not convinced by those odds. That's why I mean Vegas, kind of dumbasses sometimes. That'll probably fix itself by Saturday.
Yeah. Odds are. But yeah, pretty exciting fight. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, this one should be pretty fun actually. We'll move on to Magomedov versus Michael Armbar.
Ooh, yeah. This is such an insane fight. The first thing I want to say is that Mikhail Olajaychuk hasn't looked like his little fighter preview here in a long time. Dude looked a whole bunch. Looked like he was in significantly better shape the last time we saw him out.
I thought you were going to say significantly more.
What happened? What happened the last time we saw him out?
Well, it was back in June 1st, and our special boy Mikhail went and
Just
fought
about a
Kevin
month
Holland.
change.
And Kevin Holland kind of like almost broke his arm, and everyone was doing that thing where like they're like, oh my god, the guy can't look, because it was pretty horrible, right? Like a lot of people seriously thought that his arm was either broken or about to break, or he must have pulled some kind of muscle, or some kind of fracture must have happened.
Insert a picture of his hyperextended arm.
Yeah,
here.
please put that in there. Everyone wants to look at that again.
Yep.
But McCall was upset at the stoppage that happened right after that because he refused the tap, which I mean, obviously everyone thought was kind of insane. We did on this very podcast, and he's back. He's fine. It's fine. He's fine, guys. It's not even an issue. I don't know why anyone was worried about it. He's good, and he's going to fight again, and he's, probably going to lose to Nurmagomedov, but he's here. He must have debts, you know what I mean? He's got to have he's got to pay.
God, we all got bills to pay, don't we?
Yeah.
It's so strange. Ola Jacek, like quite literally, I think we talked about it after the fight too on the podcast, but like he was arguing with the stoppage. He's like, you should have given me more of a chance to fight. You should have let him completely snap my arm in half, I guess. Hard to really figure out what he's talking about there. The one good thing was that he dropped Kevin Holland right before that happened.
Yeah,
so
that's very true.
He's fighting Nurmagomedov, who actually is having a faster turnaround. So Mikhail Jacek fighting early June. Shara fighting late June. We're literally 1 month away from his last fight in Saudi Arabia. I don't know how anyone could pick Mikhail Jacek in this one. We're both picking Shara pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
13-0, undefeated in an Abu Dhabi card, facing someone who had their arm like hyperextended at the bare minimum 2 months ago, who's had half as many losses as he's had wins. I mean, this one tells you what's going to happen. This could be some insane odds like on fight night. Like I could see this being like plus 700 or something for Mikhail Jacek on fight night.
So if you want to sauce a little bit of money in that direction, who knows if you're lucky.
Yeah, if you want to throw away $10, that'd be the time to do it. And you're going to lose that money, but crazier things have happened. Right? But both of us are picking Shara. moving down. We have Marlon Chito Vera versus Deiveson Figueiredo. I really like this fight. I really like it a lot. And one of the big reasons that I do is because Deiveson Figueiredo is kind of proving what I've been saying for a little while, which is that 125 pounds is the grappling division. There are lots of divisions that have wrestlers, but 125 is the grappler division. And since he's come up from 125 pounds to this bantamweight division, he has been using that grappling to get himself wins over names that you would not expect him to just be able to deal with. Now, Cody Garbrandt is not an especially impressive win, but getting that submission is. Also, Deiveson Figueiredo was able to, and let me check myself before I misspeak, I'm pretty sure it was, again, Rob Font getting wrestled. Yep, it was. So since moving up to this 135-pound division, Deiveson Figueiredo has been able to find the submissions and the takedowns that he's needed to neutralize these more dangerous, bigger strikers. Now, Marlon Vera, on the other hand, is coming off of a legendary, all-time great ass whooping at the hands of Sean O'Malley, our current champion. Marlon Vera was a loss that the champ wanted to get off of his record to get that one back, and boy, did he. Over 5 rounds, he may have actually set records punching Marlon Vera in the face. I don't think you come back from that sort of a loss and look good immediately after, especially when inactivity and not throwing enough or not being, just not fighting hard enough is a big part of the problem that you have when you're losing fights. Chito Vera, very well known for getting crazy finishes, for having really heavy shots, really strong punches, really strong kicks and knees. Doesn't throw enough, doesn't do enough. And when you're not doing enough, that's when Deiveson Figueiredo is going to run you over. So I'm picking Deiveson Figueiredo to take this one. Probably by decision, but I wouldn't be surprised if he submits Marlon Vera. Vera has never been finished before, so that would be nice. If you can get that Figgy, go for it.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting fight. I like it too. Vera, I agree. I don't know. He comes off this loss, but he was looking pretty good. He got a title shot for a good reason. This ain't a guy who just sucks ass necessarily. I kind of am leaning towards him a little bit. I know He's a little bit of an underdog, probably for good reason right now. Maybe that loss where he just got his shit pushed in a little bit is going to put the fire under his ass. He's got a little bit of a toolbox. He can strike. He's not completely alien to grappling. This is a guy who can do a little bit of takedown defense, and he can go on the ground with you and go to work. I don't think he's probably going to submit Figueiredo in any imagined reality, but he might be able to get himself out of his submissions. He might be able to get himself back on the feet. He might be able to get himself into a favorable position to get significant strikes and on the ground. You know, maybe I'm insane. I do smoke a lot of crack cocaine, but I'm going to go with Marlon Vera for this one.
Yeah, you know, that is a great point. Actually, 70% in the UFC on his takedown defense. So not a bad call, but we're already splitting the picks tonight. Let's go. Let's keep it going.
Baby.
Oh, boy.
What's going on in this fight?
I'm just going to have Hello Darkness, my old friend, playing, and we'll move on. I'm not going to say a whole big bunch about this. Tony Ferguson was at one point the scariest man in the entire UFC, and then he lost one fight and has never been the same. I'm going to make sure to include the picture of his record for the past 2 or 3 years. It's all losses.
He's at like a 7-loss streak, I think, since 2020, I want to say.
Yes.
Free this man.
He was on a 12-fight win streak, and he hasn't won since that fight streak ended, man. It's the saddest story in mixed martial arts. It's not going to end. They're giving him one of the weakest matchups they could at 170 pounds against Michael Chessa, who also just can't put it together, hasn't looked good in forever. He's still going to win. I'm sorry, Tony.
This is so brutal, man. This is like, Tony has to he's like a ghost in the UFC, and he has to fight enough people for his spirit to be released. Like, please, if you lose this one, Tony, you got to go start opening, open like an ice cream stand or something. Okay. I think Michael Chessa wins this one. Tony's he's too old. He's too tired. He's done. And maybe, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I don't think it's very likely that he pulls this one off.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. One last thing I will mention that is just listen, if I learned this fact and felt bad about things, then you have to as well, dear listener. Tony Ferguson went back to sparring for this training camp. He hasn't sparred in a long time, and he went back and he did allegedly 120 rounds probably this fight camp.
Yay.
Anyways, moving on down the card.
Cry.
Yeah. I mean, we probably will fight night, but not because of this. Mackenzie Dern versus Lupi Godinez. Neither of these girls are all that impressive. Mackenzie Dern was supposed to be a UFC champion by now. She was a world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. She moved into the UFC on a whole bunch of hype. She has never lived up to that hype. She has lost, I believe, as many fights as she's won in the UFC, and she's been around for a while. She's taking on Lupi Godinez, who lost to Verna Jandiroba in her last fight, which really, I mean, based on how Verna looked in her last fight not too long ago, that's really not a bad loss. Lupi also is just, in my mind, a much more serious fighter. The only place that I could see her having trouble in this fight is Mackenzie Dern wants to knock you out. She is so desperate to get that KO finish. She just doesn't have any power, and she cannot defend herself when punching. So every single time she throws a strike, her chin is directly in the air, pointing at you, begging for you to punch her back. No one ever does, but this need to be powerful on the feet and an inability to get takedowns really limits Dern's routes to victory, since presumably she wants to submit you on the ground. I'm picking Lupi Godinez. I think she's a better fighter. I think she's fought better competition generally in the UFC. I think she'll get this win, probably by unanimous decision. But
this is kind of a funny fight because Dern's last fight was against Lemos, and then Godinez's last fight was against Jandiroba. They both lost those fights, so it's kind of like a rerun of that, but with the losers. We're in the losers bracket of that division. I think I agree in general about Godinez probably just being the better fighter at this point. Dern, she wants knockouts, and she doesn't really secure them. Godinez is not the type of person that just gets knocked out. She is pretty good doing takedown. She's got good takedown defense. She's gonna, I think, just control it. Probably just win by unanimous decision. Maybe not by a huge amount, but by a solid amount. If Duran is gonna win, it's gonna be with some lucky, punch knockout. Just rocks her in some capacity or gets a TKO or something like that. She's not horrible, but I just don't think she's good enough.
Yeah, I mean, that really is worth mentioning. Mackenzie Duran isn't terrible per se, but and I mean, look at these numbers just for striking stats, just real quick. So Lupe Godinez doesn't have anything outstanding. She's got like 48% of her strikes are significant. She's landing 4.13 per minute. She's getting hit 3.58 per minute. This is all pretty standard numbers in the UFC. Duran is landing less than she's getting hit by per minute. It's tough, dude. It's tough.
That's a bad
Anyways,
thing.
moving on down.
Anyways, dude. Goodbye, women.
Joel Alvarez versus Alves Brennen. This is a fun fight. An interesting little lightweight matchup we have going on here. Both of these guys kind of ran into trouble already at lightweight. With Joel Alvarez, I believe it was Arman Sarukian tuned him up. Alves Brennen ran into a roadblock of his own. Both of these dudes, really what we're trying to figure out right now is if either of these guys are top 15 worthy at lightweight. And that is a very difficult place to get into. Just based on who these guys have fought previously and how those fights have gone, I think Joel Alvarez is the more mature fighter. He's longer, taller, and Alves Brennen took a couple wins in the UFC since he's got here by knockout, and that's not what he was known for before he got to the UFC. I think Brennen could probably end up chasing some strikes that he's just not going to be landing against the taller, rangier opponent. If we do go to the ground, Joel Alvarez really not great at defending the takedown, but on the feet he is quite a bit better off, I think. This one should be pretty close, but I'm going to be picking Joel Alvarez.
Yeah, kind of a tough one to pick in some ways. Alvarez, he can actually submit despite the fact that he never shoots any takedowns. He has been known to reverse positions and get it done that way. But in general, I think that he's going to be the better striker. And as it turns out, that could be important in some fights, like being good at striking and then being able to survive on the ground or handle the ground simultaneously.
Yeah.
Could be a pretty solid position to be in. The interesting thing is that Alvarez has never had a fight go to decision yet, which is kind of cute. Or has never won a fight by decision, I mean. So when he does win this fight, because I think he will, I probably think that we could see an interesting grappling fight that goes to a submission for Alvarez. And that's what I think is probably going to happen. And then after that, he's going to have to fight Majin Buu.
God damn, dude. Yeah, shout out to having the little Dragon Ball tattoo.
That's
cool.
totally not why we're picking him.
Anyways, moving down into our prelims. Man, this fight is either going to be very violent and over quickly or very slow and boring. I really don't see any sort of in between. This is Amat Murzakanov versus Alonzo Manfield. Atomic Alonzo Manfield. Earlier this year, we watched Alonzo bull rush. Who the hell was it? I can see his silly face. Carlos Ulberg. Ulberg counterpunched, and when running up against running backwards into the cage, and Manfield punching the cage, missing Ulberg completely, and then getting knocked out. Not a great look. But Alonzo Manfield's fight name is Atomic, because if he can catch you and he can hit you, it's going to hurt. The problem is that Manfield just doesn't really have a lot of skills to hit you with, so he's really just throwing naked punches that are telegraphed terribly with lots of windup. He can take you down. He can wrestle with you for 3 rounds. He's taking on Amat, who has, he's never been defeated, but he picks up a slow split decision win against Justin Jacoby. I don't think he's a world beater, man. I don't think he's all that good. He probably is going to be a little bit more technically sound and sharper than Manfield, but this is a matchup where if you can't keep Manfield off of you, if you're the shorter and stockier dude who also probably has less power, it's a tough matchup, man. I think Alonzo Manfield's going to win this one, and I would not be surprised if it was by KO.
Yeah. I think the tough thing about picking this one is that Amat has not fought in like more than a year. And I don't think I've seen him fight before. It's true he's undefeated, but I don't know. Like he doesn't seem like there's that much to be impressed by. He has a couple KOs, but again, like his first KO, his debut was in 2022. So clearly there's been some kind of an issue. He's only had 3 fights since then. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know why, it could be anything from visas to health issues, but I think that Manfield is just going to have a little bit more power. And I think he's probably going to give Amat his first loss of his career. These guys are both actually ranked, which is kind of makes it a little interesting, I guess, for our featured prelim. But I think Manfield's probably going to get it done. I think it's going to be sloppy as hell. And I'm going to love it.
Absolutely. I'm with you there, man. Top 15, a light heavyweight. Ooh.
Yeah, I know, right? We're in there, baby.
Before that, this fight weirds me out for a lot of reasons. And, well, the number one reason it weirds me out is that our Brazilian fighter, Cal Fernandez, is like a serious favorite right now. A series minus 380 as of right now.
Again, Vegas has no idea what they're talking about, right? So, especially on prelims, I don't know, man. They're smoking reefer over there.
Fair. Now, these stats that you're seeing on the right side here for Cal are also not correct. He's not 5'9". Like, I'm pretty sure he's 6 foot tall. Their stats on him are kind of weird, and we can get his face if you want to see it. Ooh, look.
Oh, dude, if you click on significant strikes, does it do that for you too?
Oh, wait, let's see. What is it doing?
It's like his absorbed per minute. Do you see that? He's absorbing so many strikes. How could this possible?
He takes so many punches per minute.
Oh my god, he's got 100% significant strikes and he absorbs. He's fucking hitting him with his absorbed per minutes. That's fucked up.
Can you imagine if someone was actually like taking 42 punches on average?
That's like per minute. That would be fucking hilarious, dude. I don't even know what that would look like. That would actually be Dragon Ball Z shit.
Pretty much. Now, goofy UFC webpage stuff aside, Cal Fernandez has one UFC fight that he lost last year. And I would not be surprised if he was never officially signed. If he was brought in for a short notice, 1-fight deal, lost, and disappeared. But Muhammad Yaya is also coming off of a loss. So both of these guys have a UFC loss. They're not actually all that different in age. I believe Yaya's 30 and Fernandez is 29. There is a slight size advantage for Cal Fernandez, but they still have to weigh the same on fight night, right? Or at least for the weigh-in. I'm trying to figure out why Muhammad Yaya is such an underdog in this, especially considering he is the Muslim fighter on an Abu Dhabi card, where they usually try to find favorable matchups for guys.
Yeah. And honestly, on that alone, the fact that the site's fucking up. Who even knows if those odds are real, right? Go to the actual Vegas betting sites and see. I'm going to go with Muhammad Yahya.
I did.
Oh, okay. It's still that bad?
So much.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Maybe very strange.
Well, this is a fixed fight. We all know that. It's obvious. When I pick Muhammad Yahya and he loses, we know what happened, right? They fixed the fight.
Obviously. Yeah, I'm also picking Muhammad Yahya. Something's just very strange about this one. This is also, this one's probably being made last minute. I know another fight on the undercard was.
I mean, it kind of looks like the fucking guy updating the website is like updating it as we're talking about it. So this is probably one of those last minute ones.
Yeah. So both of us picking Muhammad Yahya on this one. Kind of on vibes and suspicions, but what else can you go on?
I mean, you're the prelims at a fight night. You got to get a little mystical down there.
Yep. Moving on down. Man, I did so much research on this one because I was like, who the hell is Shamil Gaziev? How has he already had a main event and I don't even know who he is? Shamil Gaziev has been in a 5-round fight before. Can you imagine that in the UFC?
Why? What the fuck?
He fought Jairzinho Rosenstrike last year. If you look this up,
he's had 2 fights. Was that just like a last minute thing?
It may have been.
Holy shit! Look at that fucking fight. He got his fucking ass handed to him.
Right? So that's why I wanted a whole deep dive on, wait, who the fuck is Gaziev? What? Why did he fight Jairzinho? So I didn't get an answer to that question necessarily because I was looking at the stats of how badly Gaziev got his ass whooped in that fight. I was looking at the stats as well. I believe he got like 0 of 7 takedowns. So Gaziev was undefeated before that fight. And that one is that beatdown to Rosenstrike last year. He's taking on Dontel Mays, who is, like, frankly, like when I was doing the research ahead of time, my note for Dontel Mays was absolutely mediocre. He has pretty decent punching power. He's a big guy, long as well, so he's got good reach. Um, just cannot put it all together. He trades wins and losses very consistently. You know, his record is 11-6. Okay, that's not a great record to have in any division, but he's at heavyweight. He's a big guy, and he does get knockouts sometimes. Sometimes. Um, he's lost a couple of times in the UFC already, but it's to guys like Cyril Gahn, so it's not like he's losing to nobody. Um, Really, a lot of the research on this fight for me was slowly finding reasons to pick Dontel Mays, because that loss that Shamil has on that record is so bad. It is so brutal. And I can't imagine you come back from getting your ass whooped by Jairzinho Rosenstrike. I'm giving this fight too much time already. I'm talking about it too much.
Dude.
I'm picking Dontel Mays, dude.
I think
Shamil
I gotta
sucked.
go with Dontel Mays exactly just because I literally just looked at that. Like, you lose that fucking badly. Look, your life's not necessarily over, but I don't fucking think you're going to come back from that and just look amazing, right? Dontel Mays ain't that good, but I don't think Shamil Gaziev is going to come off that and just be like a champion again, right? Sure, he might be back down where he should be fighting guys he probably should actually be fighting, but who knows, man? You get fucked up that badly, you're going to be a little scared the next time you get in the ring, you know what I mean? Doesn't matter how fucking confident you are beforehand, the second you walk in there, you're going to remember when you got pounded for like 120 strikes.
Yeah, so expect Shamil to shoot for a takedown as early as possible.
Yeah.
Moving on down, this is a last-minute replacement fight. That much I do know. This is Guram Ladzi versus Jordan Vucinic.
The epidemic.
Jordan, yeah, the epidemic.
You can't
This
call
is an
yourself that.
English fighter. He has never. This is his UFC debut. He's a Cage Warriors guy. He actually is doing very well in Cage Warriors right now. And Guram was not doing well in the UFC. He has lost his last 2 fights, and I believe he was knocked out in one of those fights as well. But
This is the bargain bin, baby.
listen, okay? Jordan is not only coming in on very short notice, he's also going up a weight class. He normally fights at 145 pounds. So he's going to have a significant size disadvantage. He's not normally this big. Haha, just kidding. Do you remember what was his name? Felipe Silva, that dude who was a last-minute replacement fighter from Brazil on the Abu Dhabi card, and he completely smoked the guy who he was being brought in last minute to lose to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting that feeling from this one. Guram has lost his last 2 UFC fights. Jordan is getting his last-minute UFC debut on a big card, you know, a big fight night where there's actually some names on it. I bet he shows up. I bet he wins. I'm picking Jordan Vucinic.
Yeah, I gotta go for Jordan Vucinic just because he's looked pretty good in his pre-UFC record. If you go to his Cage Warrior stuff, he's got a lot of wins. I mean, he's been looking pretty damn good over there. And I mean, you know, it's not the UFC, but it just transfers over, you know, you just fight the same way and everything. And this guy, I think, is largely a wrestler. I don't know how well Guram's going to be able to handle that, but I don't think it's going to be that well. I'm going with Jordan.
All right, we're in agreement there. Moving down, Victoria Dudakova versus Sam Hughes. One look at the records of these 2 girls is going to tell you a lot of what I found out doing research. Sam Hughes really isn't good at anything. If she gets a win, it's because she turns up and the other girl doesn't. She's not dangerous. If we look at wins by, right? Oh, wow, 43% by submission. Haven't seen any of that recently. I'm picking Victoria Dudakova, just a fighter that hasn't seen it all completely fall apart. Sam Hughes could win this one. I'm not picking very confidently, but man, she's just not impressive.
I don't think Sam Hughes could win this one. I like how Victoria has 2 eyes in her name. That's kind of interesting. They're like side by side. You don't see that a lot. But on top of that, she's like a pretty good fighter in general. She's only had a couple of fights, but she's looked pretty good in both of them. And she's probably going to win this one too. The only kind of like hiccup here is that, again, she hasn't fought since October of last year. Obviously, a variety of reasons for that could be, but I don't think it's going to be anything serious. Dudakova has this one.
Nice.
Nice,
Moving on
dude.
down. Jai Herbert versus Rolando Bedoya. Bedoya came in as this prospect from Peru. He has lost his 2 UFC fights. Jai Herbert, on the other hand, is like a grizzled veteran. Jai Herbert wins this fight, I think, probably pretty easily. Sometimes Herbert runs into guys who are just a little bit too strong for him, a little bit too good for him. He ended up fighting our current featherweight champion up at lightweight, actually. Ilya Topuria came up to lightweight and fought Jai Herbert. I forget exactly why, but I do very clearly remember Jai Herbert almost knocking Topuria out with a head kick. Jai Herbert is actually dangerous. He's well-rounded. Sometimes he just gets smoked. Sometimes he just gets outworked by guys, but Rolando is not the guy to do it. I'm picking Jai Herbert.
Yeah, so I think Rolando actually will probably win this one. My main reasoning is just that, well, he's lost 2 fights. They've both been by decision. One of them was split decision. This is a guy who will go toe-to-toe with you. He will stand up and strike with you. He's not getting knocked out, at least thus far. He's actually got a better professional record than Herbert does, which is kind of amusing. Clearly, mostly pre-UFC, but I think that he's probably going to do it. Won't be by a lot. Probably wins by decision. Maybe even split decision, but I'm going to go with Bedoya.
All right, splitting our picks even late on the card. Probably not going to split this one. Cedrica's Dumas versus Dennis Tululin. Tululin, in his last 5, has 2 losses by knockout, 2 losses by submission, and 1 KO win. Whereas Cedric Dumas is knocking dudes out. That's what is supposed to happen. If you're tuning in for that first early Fight Pass prelim, expect a KO and expect Dennis Tululin to be face down on the mat, most likely.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure on this one. This is maybe my most sure of any of the picks on the card.
I was going to say, because Dumas, I don't think has any KOs. The UFC yet. Don't look at his pre-UFC stuff. Don't look at that.
I might have already looked at it.
Uh-oh. Yeah. I mean, the thing is that Dennis is just, I don't know, dude. The closer you get to that 50-50 win rate, the more it's like, okay, dude, you got to get out of here. And he probably will be out of here when Dumas knocks him out on Saturday.
All right, awesome. Those are our picks for UFC Fight Night in Yas Island, Island. Wow. Yas.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Arab Emirates. It is quite literally on Yas Island, though.
I know, dude. It's Yas, man. I know. Hope we're right. Follow along with us and make fun of us if we're wrong. It's okay.
Argue with us in the comments.
Argue with us. We do like to see people like call us idiots in the comments. So please.
But anyways, this has been your UCF Predictions podcast. We'll catch you Monday with our post-fight podcast, and we'll be watching those fights Saturday. We hope you guys are too. Have a good one.
All right, take care, people. Woo!